think we got back.
We're back. We're on. We're recording.
We're back with everybody, yes.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay.
With everybody.
Now, plug this in. And we'll be ready.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Sister Heidi.
Yeah.
Hey, Sister Heidi.
Hello.
All right, guys. Hang on 1 second here. You guys got to mute button on this thing, right? Okay.
Stop it. Hi. Oh, turn it.
All right, guys, we're recording, so here we go. And people are joining like crazy. Mike from around the world is with us. Mike, how you doing tonight?
God bless you, Pastor Paul. Busy night. Nevertheless, doing okay.
Okay. All right. Busy night tonight, Mike?
Yeah.
All right, Mike. There's we're live on Patreon as well as which is through Zoom, right? It's through Zoom, and then this gets posted to Patreon. So if you guys keep your mic muted, it'd be great. And, all right, so Mike, you sent a very interesting email, and share with us. If you want to share with us what it was you said, and so we're calling this the global countdown.
Yeah, it's a good title for it. That's about what it is. In the email, Pastor Paul, this point we're at, when Putin made his move, he effectively surrounded his off-sea, is what he did. So he's got, that's a major point. However, anybody who touches those territories, by way of his constitution, Putin has a legal right for retaliation and also to view any aggressive acts of those places as an offensive against Russia. And so he's not showing any motivation towards talks or anything else. As a result of that, as a consequence of that, everybody is getting together this week. They've already started drafting things. So they're going to give him an ultimatum, and we all know what that means. Democracy, they're going to continue to say it's a threat to democracy, and it is to a degree, but he has really, this time, he's fully isolated himself against allied forces, NATO forces. And so military deployment following this deadline, because it's not going to be a long deadline. This week, in fact, in the next, I'd say about 4 to 7 days, they're going to have some talks at the UN, but they're also going to have some talks in the USA. Most countries will have talks concerning military operations, and this is where everything is leading to. They also have to swift prepare for nuclear defensive, because they understand that Putin has wind of NATO getting together with the U.S. and everybody else, and policies are about to come forward. These policies will be deadly serious. This countdown is going to be an ultimatum. Either he's going to fold, or they're going to step in with some military might. And the coordinative efforts are taking place right now.
So when these efforts are taking place, is there, so I take it there's all kinds of movement going on, not just Russian movement, but United States and maybe every nation in the world, NATO for sure.
That's right. And so what they're getting ready for, Pascal, they understand that, because listen, Putin was only going to do what he did with these 4 provinces if he was about to use some large-scale weapons, right?
Right.
That way, by way of his constitution, and by international law, of course, they have a seat at the UN. Even by that law, they can absolutely retaliate with a given force that would obliterate. Well, we know where that's going. It's going nuclear. He's not playing concerning this nuclear topic, and the West now knows it. It is a very serious matter. It's no longer talking points. It's not some threatening posturing. This has actually snapped quite a few people into a defensive and tactical mode. And so within the next, when they draw up this framework, and it's only going to take about a max of I say somewhere between 4 to 8 days, they're going to present it. They're going to present this framework internationally. If he does not comply with it, he's going to be given a short amount of time to comply.
Who's drafting this plan? They're going to offer it to Putin, you're saying?
Well, they're going to give him an ultimatum. Here it is. Give back those territories, right?
Right.
Give back the territories or face the military consequences. In the meanwhile, they're drawing up this paperwork. It's going to turn from, diplomatic efforts to protect democracy into actions of force. Now, Putin is going to get wind of this, and he's going to begin to strategically move his forces in a position likewise, like what's happening already. So anybody who does anything in these regions, he has just claimed north of, because they go up north of Crimea surrounding the Azov Sea. So anybody who touches those areas, which you're doing right now, by way of his constitution, he has a right to strike them with equal force. Now, he's lost quite a bit out there, right?
Right.
The sum of what he has lost, he can retaliate by. That's a whole lot. In other words, because they made it international news, what they have destroyed and who they have killed and all these stories.
Right.
He can legally respond with equal force upon that nation to what they have already applied. Now we know what that means, right? You can't do that with a few major bombs. You have to do that with, that's going to go tactical nuclear very quickly. As a consequence of that, Germany, they have their troops in deployment orders drawn up. People are being notified that they could be deployed in a very short, with a very short notice. And so they have to be prepped for that, for defense of Europe, of course, and our allies in that region. But when this ultimatum comes out, they're going to give him a number of days to comply, to get that land back. Now, everybody in their right mind understands that Putin is likely not going to do that. He's not going to give the Ukraine back, right? He's not going to stop his pursuits of trying to get this. And so we know what that's going to turn into, which is why they're going to extensively draw up tactical planning. They're looking at this situation right now through very different eyes. And many people will find out the policies that are coming forward.
So they're going to draw up the plans in about a week or so. They're going to put this ultimatum on the floor or put this ultimatum on the desk of Putin to say, you got to give back that 4 areas that you just annexed, which is about 15% of the Ukrainian landmass. And
yeah, plus the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you mean Crimea?
Well, he's settled himself in some disputed places. He also has to get that up. Plus, because of Ukraine, you see what they did the other day. They signed the paperwork. They're becoming part of NATO. They submitted that again. So it's a countdown will begin within 4 to 8 days, and that countdown is going to be very short.
And so they're saying to him, you got to give back these 4 regions that you just annexed. We're not going to have that. It was not a true annex. It was a gun to the people's head, a rigged deal, and you're trying to convince the world that you just annexed these because they wanted to be annexed. And he's going to. So you're saying they'll give him this ultimatum. He will then have a few days to respond. And he's either got to give it back or else. And that or else is what? Will there be a preemptive strike on Putin by us, by NATO?
Likely. Likely. I would say likely.
And
It's
what
very
kind
likely.
of a strike would that be? Would it be tactical
Well, it
nuke?
depends. Here's a real scenario. If certain lines are crossed with Russia, right? If this is forced, he's not going to hesitate to use nuclear armaments. In fact, keep in mind that Russia is our cyber warfare enemy of the deep state, not to mention some other platforms out there. So he has a very long reach.
Hang on, folks. I just lost Mike from around the world. That means let's wait for Mike to call right back because I'm sure he's hitting some hot buttons. And this is why we're doing this on Patreon. So hang on 1 minute. We'll get Mike back on here, I'm sure, when he realizes he's not on here. And he's trying to operate off a secured line, but I don't care how secured it is. Mike they listen to what he's saying, of course, and he's allowed to say certain things, but he's also got into areas now. He has not come back. So give me 1 second here. I see there's 300 of you in here right now. That's all the seats we had. So you guys are the blessed ones. But this is being recorded, so it will be uploaded for the rest of the folks. Here we go. Mike, are you back?
I am back, Fastball. I totally 100% lost you.
Yes. It was kind of weird. It was kind of abrupt, but see if you can pick up where you left off there. The ultimatum, and I ask you, would we do, or would NATO do a preemptive strike? And if so, at what measure would that be?
Chances are Putin, right? Given his mindset, and he's already right now, he's been deep into cyber warfare with several countries ongoing. So he has intel of his own, and he already stated to some of his closest individuals that he would absolutely die first, right? He's willing to die and sacrifice as many as necessary to fight this democracy that's in, this, what do you call it, this modern day democracy.
Yeah.
Right? So he would rather die first. And he meant that. And the people around him, some of the people around him, some of the folks that know him very well, they say he is prepared to die and to put at risk much for the sake of fighting democracy or destroying it as it is today. And what that really means is an absolute assault against NATO or allied nations. So what we're saying now, if they drop this framework, we could very well see some type of preemptive attack from Russia before the ultimatum is given. And this is of great concern. Either way, it looks like to quite a few people that this will turn into a tactical situation with the military. That's the way it looks. And we're looking, you're only looking at a 4 to 8 day window before that ultimatum is given. And it will move swiftly. One of the words that was used was that it will be swift. It'll be without, and that's probably why they had preparations beginning last week. It's probably why a couple of days ago they went ahead and began some, they're putting troop charts together, running over the numbers, seeing how many casualties would be where, going through simulations of what could they actually do and what can't they do, right? They're pulling out all the stops. They have to see this from all different angles. And it's not working by way of talks.
So, okay. So yes, they're running every possible scenario and every possible attack point anywhere within NATO countries. And what Putin may do. I mean, Putin may do a tactical nuke strike on Ukraine, just Ukraine itself. And he's trying to, I heard him say the other day that the United States has opened this can of worms in 1945 when we dropped the atom bomb on the 2 cities in Japan. He said, don't blame me. This was already opened up. This basically, they've already, you've already introduced this to the world. So whatever I do is nothing new. It's already been done. Now, of course, it's not nuclear. Atom bombs are not nuclear necessarily. So would he feel justified in dropping a tactical nuke in Ukraine? Maybe not on any of the other NATO countries, but Ukraine. And would we respond if he did that?
I don't think he'll just drop one into Ukraine. If that were to happen, he would have a retaliation because there's no way to contain radiation to one area like that.
Right.
So this whole conversation, what you're talking about right now, came up last week. As a result of that, naval movements have been reinitiated in several areas. And we have some standoffs right now as a result of that, one shadowing another. So people are prepared and they're waiting for, naturally that order to be given. I do not think Putin already said that America would not retaliate, that NATO forces would not retaliate if he did use a nuclear weapon. He's been touting that they wouldn't retaliate. But the U.S. and other nations are deciding they're past the point of diplomacy. That's why this situation is different. In this last move of Putin, he was warned not to do it. And he did so anyway.
He did it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So diplomacy is soon to end. And that diplomacy could end in 4 to 8 days. That quick.
When you say 4 to 8 days, is it because that takes that long to get the nuclear silos or the equipment?
Well, no. Believe me, they have things ready right now. 4 to 8 days is when they're going to present this to the international community, right?
Right.
In 4 to 8 days, then they're going to get that ultimatum. They're going to watch his responses very closely. And remember, he could do a preemptive at any time. Once this is issued. So they have to already be in position prior to giving that ultimatum.
Yeah. They have to be already fingers on the trigger when they hand him their ultimatum.
That's right.
And he could even do something before the ultimatum is even handed to him.
That's the worry.
That's the worry.
That's the worry right there.
So basically all hands are on deck at this moment. Fingers are on the trigger everywhere. And battleships and nuclear subs are in position or are moving to position. What's China doing right now?
China's doing the same thing everybody else is. They are also preparing themselves for insertion into this. See, if Russia happens to lose, what's going to stop that machine from finishing off the rest? This is in China's mind.
Yeah.
That if Russia falls, they're going after everybody who could potentially rise just like Russia, right?
Right.
So this is a very different situation. At no time since World War II have the Allied nations ever come together this strongly, coordinating on all levels of military personnel availability, tactical planning, networking, you name it. They've not come together like this. And some of the simulations, some of the folks are saying that these are brand new simulations they've not seen before. So which tells me these are real-time tactical simulations, not so much for data collection, but for an actual casualty ratio to see what the survivable places are if this were to take place, and to see what, which targets are better for long-term livability of those areas. So it's going to turn ugly pretty quick. This is unlike any other situation. When Putin made this move, it shocked a lot of people. A lot of high-ranking individuals were shocked because they know what this means.
It was one thing to invade Ukraine, but it's another thing to then claim you have now taken over certain property, which is about 15% of the country.
That's right.
And so I guess that's when I bring up China, let me also approach it from another direction with China. Are we also worried about China seizing the moment? And if they see an attack by Russia on NATO and they see a vulnerability, is there some concern that they could jump in the fray to help?
Yeah. One of the bad parts is that China does not have trash equipment. China's quite advanced.
Yeah.
They're quite advanced. And so that's a very big issue. I would say that at least 60% of the fleet will have to be utilized in that area. 60%.
To protect,
you're going to have to
protect us from China.
That's right.
Yeah.
That means the stations in Alaska are prepped and ready to go. And if if all this is true, because it was only 4 days ago when they moved up to another level, we will change our defense posture. That's coming next. If not this week, it's going to come very soon then, because we're going to face some troubles, imminent troubles. And so these things are going swiftly. This is unlike any other time.
There's never been a threat against NATO this strong since World War II. No.
There's not been. And Putin has shown no willingness to back down, no willingness to actually collaborate or cooperate or come up with anything, right? So long as the democratic machine that he keeps calling a democratic machine is functional, Putin is going to fight, because if he loses the Ukraine, in his mind, Russia starves. There is no more Russia. So what will a guy do when he says there is no more Russia? This move he made, they warned him, I believe it's like 8 days prior to this ever happening. They warned him, don't do it. Don't do that. Don't do that. But because he did it, that really shows that if he'll do this, Pastor Paul, if he'll do what he just did, he's capable of just about anything.
And his manifesto, I keep going back to his manifesto that he released a few days before he did the invasion in Ukraine. He showed the warped mindset of Peter the Great, Rasputin mentality of I've got to restore Mother Russia, and he was.
Good night. Don't make Luna bark. We already said good night, honey.
He was painting a picture that he has to do this or else. There's no other way. Has he really convinced himself? Apparently, he's convinced himself of this because he's acting upon it.
Yeah, he is acting upon it, which makes him a very unpredictable individual. Very unpredictable. He's by no means a dummy, right? So something is up his sleeve. But NATO forces, Western culture, right? All those countries, they have to do something very quickly, or the inevitable will take place, because he's already demonstrated, no matter what, he's not going to stop. He's not going to. I suspect he's going to bring out the big guns. Now, he's going to bring them out because they're going to breach in these areas. He will bring out the big guns. There will be a public display of exactly what he's capable of.
So he's going to pull out some of the equipment that you believe he's been holding back all this time.
Oh yeah.
And we're not even talking technical nukes here. We're talking about more weaponry that we haven't seen.
That's right. And that's why he did this in the first place, to give him an excuse to use much stronger force, right? He's great at stalling.
Yeah.
He'll stall everyone until he gets exactly what he wants. In this case, if he has to destroy just about everything over there to get that land, that's only in a pure loss scenario. If NATO acts against him, if NATO accepts the Ukraine, you remember when they wouldn't do it about a month ago?
Yeah.
They just wouldn't touch it. Now it's not so different. For protection's sake, they're going to have to do something. Everybody is being forced to a side right now. And within 4 to 8 days, that countdown will begin.
I'm not going to labor this too long, but I got another question I have for you is as we see this developing, I had a dream. And I've shared that dream. I showed you, and I remember it was almost a year ago when I saw the uniforms. There were new uniforms that were issued to U.S. and NATO forces that were somehow resistant to chemical, maybe radiation. I'm not sure what all they were resistant to. And also, I seen the dread. There was dread on it was in the Pentagon, and it was dread on the faces of the men and women in there that Putin had pulled out weapons, that he was going to use the dreaded weapons, and they were like the blood had ran out of their body, out of their face. And that was been about a year ago, Mike, and this is before he even invaded. And I think you remember that. I showed the little pictures and drawings. Are we getting ready to, I guess there must be weapons of great dread. They're not even nuclear. Maybe they're worse than nuclear. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what's worse than nuclear weapons? That's chemical biological. weapons.
Yeah.
If he launches for example, if he launches one of the new distribution, here's a new distribution system for nerve agent. If he launches that in the northern hemisphere, it's only going to be about 15 days until the entire northern hemisphere is affected by some sort of a neurobraid toxin, which will really be, that's bad stuff, right? Even me, of all the weapons, I'm, chemical biological is quite scary. It's unforgiving. It is very damaging. Causes nothing but suffering. And China and Russia, right? China, Russia, and North Korea, they have most of them. They do. They have most of those chemical stockpiles, chemical weapons, chemical biological weapons. So Putin has a lot in that area. And if he decides to launch one, right? Which, you know what, the how it is right now where he stands, he would, I wouldn't be surprised if he has not already utilized some delayed biological agent. But he will pull out the big guns. He will.
Yeah. So these next 4 to 8 days, and you use those two terms because apparently there's something already in the works, and maybe there's a two-phase. It sounds like maybe there's two ultimatums. There's one coming in 4 days and another one in 8. I don't know if that's possible, or is this maybe just that's kind of the positioning of the military positioning of globally, but it's a 4 to 8 day window.
Yeah, that's in 4 to 8 days, the world will know that some sort of ultimatum was given to President Putin. Now, they're going to tell everybody their timeline. Of course, it's going to be a lot shorter than what they give. It's not going to be long at all when they announce it. They're talking over the numbers. They were talking over the numbers as of Friday. And so they're going to go ahead with this. They're going forth with this plan. So things right now, militarily, are changing so drastically that this coming week coming up, I just wouldn't be surprised if people absolutely act differently from what they're about to hear. The populace is supporting NATO right now. The populace is. Nobody's supporting, hardly anybody's supporting Putin, and that's what they needed. They needed public support, because if they go ahead with military movements, most of which has to be approved by Congress, they need public support. They have it. They're not going to waste it. They have it.
They've got it. They know they got it. And not only does the United States have popular support, all of Europe has NATO's back. Yeah, so Putin can feel that. His propaganda war against the West has failed, and he is the odd man out, and he's the caged animal in the corner. And now the question is, what is he going to do about it? And boy, it's the kind of situation now that he is so erratic, is so radical and so unpredictable that he's a danger every breath he breathes. He's dangerous to the world at this point.
Yeah, and his good friends, they keep telling people he'll die first. He'll risk himself and everybody else for his ideology.
I doubt he has anybody. I doubt they can get anybody close enough in there that could remove him. He's got a very small circle of trusted advisors, I think, at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, he's protected, and he's protected from the air also. But he will, it's just sad to say, this week, we could see at the end of this week, we could see Putin this week or the early next week, we could see him pull out all the stops. We could really see him go into another phase of his battle, of his mindset, which is going to cause all the Allied forces to do the same. And you also know, Pascal, they have German soldiers have already been scheduled for deployment. And that was week and a half ago.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard something about that.
French also likewise.
Okay.
Most Allied forces are going to do the same. The U.S. is active as far as people know, as far as weapons supplies, but that will increase also.
Will we hear a change in the tone of the media tomorrow morning?
I do believe it's going to become one of the key words every time something is really about to happen. For example, the Gulf War. Going back to the when they went backwards, Saddam Hussein and the three variants of the Gulf, Mogadishu, all these different places, they always bring up this word democracy.
Yep.
They bring up defense of democracy.
Yep.
And once all of them pinpoint an aggressor of democracy, it turns into this: we must guard democracy. And then, of course, we must fight to keep democracy, which will be a literal term. At that point,
you know,
some of the talks will go on, and they're going forward with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, I really appreciate you coming on here tonight, sharing this with us. And wow, it's going to be a very interesting week. We will stay close contact with you, and a lot of prayers going up. A lot of prayers going up for the world. Really, we're talking the world. You know, I knew something was really up tonight when I seen the Pope of Rome said he ditched his Sunday morning message to plead to Putin. I'm thinking that isn't going to happen. He's been told just how serious the situation is, they've told the Pope, go out there and plead. Okay, this is almost like a last ditch effort to.
That is.
Yeah.
That is when the Pope goes and he tries to intercede. First of all, he has a situational awareness what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Because if any of the forces, good forces, or let's just say free forces, decide that he is going to launch chemical, biological, nuclear weapons, they will do a preempt. They will do it. They understand they're going to have to hit multiple targets, but they will do it. They'll have no choice. They're going to have to disrupt command and control of their Navy. Russia has a large underwater Navy, underwater Navy. And this is a big problem. We're going to have to do something with space also. He has a lot of equipment in space.
Well, Mike, we're going to stay close on this. We'll watch it. I know you're going to be all over it, and we'll stay in touch with you. And we may have to talk before we ever get to Thursday night. It sounds like it's very possible in the next 4 to 8 days, the world is about to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
personally, I hope not. But I tell you what, Pascal, we've just not. No one.
This isn't this is way beyond the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was kind
This isn't all bluster. This is a lot of action, even tonight, behind some of these ideas. So.
Yep. All right, Mike. I appreciate the call. I really appreciate it, and everybody here does too.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Pastor Paul.
All right. God bless.
God bless.
Thank you.
There you have it, folks. You heard Mike, and this was pretty. Mike's. Look, you guys have been listening to me and Mike talk for 8-9 years now. That's the most urgent, the most candid, the most. This is the really problem. This is the real deal. He's ever done, and which means we're already in a different world. Okay, but we're in the world that the Bible told us was coming. You know, and when I shared that with you guys in the start tonight's broadcast earlier, the sixth trumpet war. Read about it. Something drastic has to happen to kill a third of the world, and hopefully that's not what we're getting ready to experience. But the potential for that to happen is real. Let's just pray it doesn't at this time. But we're in a real world situation. So, and with that, I'm going to let you guys. What's that?
Poseidon can generate a radioactive tsunami that can wipe out metropolitan areas such as New York or Los Angeles. It said that they're testing it. The Russians are testing that.
Poseidon?
That's what their Belgrade.
Yeah.
Belgrade.
Belgrade. Yes. And so it's called the Poseidon. Not good. Not good.
Pastor Paul?
Yes.
I was just thinking, the Bible says when we see these things begin to happen, lift up our head, look up, for our redemption draws nigh. God bless everyone.
I'm so glad you threw that one out there because we needed that one. Amen to that.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. Good night, everybody.
All right, God bless.
Good night. God bless everyone.
Good night. God bless. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom,
Shalom.
shalom.
Good night and God bless.
Good night.